Just follow this, and very early on in 2026, you'll be having natural Spanish conversations. I've also included a section for non-beginners, and if this is you, you can jump forward to the time code that's going to appear now, but of course you can stick with us for some extra practice. Welcome to ProSpanish. So I'll break this down into steps for you, and on the way, you're going to learn an awful lot of Spanish. So let's start with this. We could have the verbs completely on their own. So estar, to be, hablar, to speak, ir, to go, etc. Or we can add some bits to make them more useful and more memorable. So we can have estar en casa, to be at home, or to be in house, if we were going to be exact. Estar en casa, to be at home. We could have hablar español, to speak Spanish. Or it could be hablar inglés, to speak English. Ir is to go, and we can have the places to go to. Ir a la tienda, to go to the shop. It could be ir a la playa, to go to the beach. We've got jugar, so we could just have to play jugar, but more usefully, jugar al golf. And very guessable, jugar al tenis. What do you think that means? Yeah, to play tennis. What do you think jugar al fútbol is? Yeah, to play football. Then we have terminar el curso, to finish the course. Terminar el curso. Now, as I said, you're going to learn a lot in this video, but we won't have time for the more relaxed pace I use in my Levels 1 to 6 course, where everything is learned as you go. Right now, I want you to learn a lot, but I also want you to get a clear and encouraging overview of just how quickly you can learn Spanish in 2026. So, terminar el curso, to finish the course. But we could have terminar el proyecto, to finish the project. Or it could be terminar el programa, to finish the program. We've got comer, to eat. Comer algo, to eat something. Actually, looking at something, algo, how would we say to finish something? So just look at the one above. Instead of to finish the course, how could we say to finish something? Yes, terminar algo. Terminar algo. We've got to sleep, dormir, like a dormitory. Dormir, to sleep. And discutir looks a bit like discuss, but it's used more for argue. Discutir, to argue. Now, the next step is to see how we can start our sentences. Most of these here refer to the present, but we'll also look at how to speak in the future and in the past. So let's just look at the first one. I want and you want. And that you want is exactly the same as do you want. So the statement you want and the question do you want is exactly the same in Spanish. So I want, quiero. Quiero. That QU is always like a K. Quiero, I want. And do you want? Quieres. Quieres. So it could simply be quiero café. I want coffee. And that's also the same as saying I'd like coffee. I want coffee or I'd like coffee. If I want coffee is quiero café, how would you say do you want coffee? Yes, quieres. So quieres is you want or do you want. So quieres café? Quieres café? And we can also use this with the verbs in the second column. What do you think it means if I say quiero estar en casa? What does that mean? Quiero estar en casa. So just put in the two bits together. Yes, I want to be at home. What does this question mean, do you think? So I'm going to ask a question with do you want? What does it mean if I say, ¿Quieres jugar al golf? ¿Quieres jugar al golf? What does that mean? Yes, do you want to play golf? How would you ask someone, do you want to eat something? What would that be? ¿Quieres comer algo? ¿Quieres comer algo? How about, I want to sleep? What would that be? I want to sleep. Quiero dormir. Quiero dormir. And we'll just take a quick pause here while I mention my very popular Levels 1 to 6 course. This takes the complete beginner or near beginner right up to a conversational level of Spanish in a series of very easy to follow steps. Now, all the lessons on this YouTube channel are supplementary, whereas the core Levels 1 to 6 is very much a step-by-step program delivered by me, the same teacher as all the other videos on this channel. And while the style is very similar to what you'll be used to from these videos on the channel, the key difference is that every lesson carefully builds on the previous lessons so that you can really feel that progress of going from little or no Spanish up to a level where you can confidently hold a conversation in Spanish. And that course download is available exclusively from prospanish.co.uk. Drop down to I have to, the next one down. I have to and you have to. So tengo que, I have to, and you have to, tienes que. So tengo on its own is just I have. Tengo un problema, for example. I've got a problem. Tengo un problema. But if we want to say I have to, as in I must, we have to add the que. So tengo que, I have to. And you have to, tienes que. And I said before, tengo un problema. I've got a problem. How would you ask someone, do you have a problem? So you're literally saying, you have a problem? What do you think that would be? ¿Tienes un problema? ¿Tienes un problema? Do you have a problem? But using I have to with the middle column phrases, what does it mean if I say, tengo que hablar español? Tengo que hablar español. I have to speak Spanish. Somebody might say to you, you have to speak Spanish. What would they say? How would you say, you have to speak Spanish? Tienes que hablar español. Tienes que hablar español. You have to speak Spanish. How would you say, I have to finish the course? What would that be? Tengo que terminar el curso. Tengo que terminar el curso. And let's add in our third column now. So how we finish our sentences so that all this becomes very natural and everyday. So in our third column, we've got hoy, today. We've got primero, first. Al final, in the end. And we'll come on to the others in a minute. So how would you say, going back to I have to finish course, tengo que terminar el curso, how would you say, I have to finish the course first? What would that be? Tengo que terminar el curso primero. Tengo que terminar el curso primero. how would you say you have to go to the shop today? What would that be? You have to go to the shop today. Tienes que ir a la tienda hoy. Tienes que ir a la tienda hoy. And don't worry if you don't get the pronunciation right away. Of course, that's completely normal and it just comes with more practice. And let's bring in I can and you can. Puedo and puedes. And of course, these can be questions as well. So, can I and can you? Exactly the same. Puedo, puedes. I can, you can. Using to finish the course again. What would it mean if I said, puedo terminar el curso hoy? What does that mean? Puedo terminar el curso hoy. I can finish the course today. And what about a question with can you, with puedes? What does it mean if I ask, ¿puedes jugar al golf hoy? Actually, no, let's change it. ¿Puedes jugar al golf al final? ¿Puedes jugar al golf al final? What does that mean? Can you play golf in the end? Can you play golf in the end? So you're making arrangements. And you might say, ¿puedes jugar al golf al final? How would you say, I can go to the shop first? What would that be? Puedo ir a la tienda primero. Puedo ir a la tienda primero. And let's bring in no. Nice and easy. No. No. And we can put no in front of any of these to make a negative. So starting at the top, quiero is I want. No quiero, I don't want. We've just been looking at puedo, I can. No puedo would mean, or what do you think it would mean? No puedo. I no can. In other words, I can't. You can't. No puedes. You can't. What does it mean if I say no puedo jugar al golf al final? I can't play golf in the end. How would you say, I can't be at home today? What would that be? I can't be at home today. No puedo estar en casa hoy. No puedo estar en casa hoy. And how would you say simply, I can't sleep? What would that be? I can't sleep. No puedo dormir. No puedo dormir. Let's have a look at the final two rows in the first column. So I like and you like. And of course, the question, do you like? So me gusta is I like. And you like or do you like, te gusta. And then underneath that, we've got suelo is I tend to. Sueles, you tend to. But it can also be I usually do something. So I tend to do whatever first, or I usually do this first. So suelo and sueles. What would it mean if I say suelo dormir primero? Suelo dormir primero. What does that mean? I tend to sleep first. or I usually sleep first. How would you say I usually eat something first? What would that be? Suelo comer algo primero. Suelo comer algo primero. And see if you can guess this one. What do you think this means? I'm going to add in a new word which you haven't seen, but I think you might be able to guess it from the context. No suelo dormir mucho. No suelo dormir mucho. So mucho is much. So what does it mean if I say no suelo dormir mucho? I don't tend to sleep much, or I don't usually sleep much. Okay, let's bring in the other three from column 3. So we got up to al final, in the end. And then we have with. So conmigo is with me, conmigo. Contigo, with you. Con Carmen, with Carmen. But of course it could be with whoever. It could be with Miguel, con Miguel. Con mi amigo, with my friend. So conmigo, contigo, with me, with you. What does it mean if I say me gusta hablar español contigo? Me gusta hablar español contigo. I like to speak Spanish with you, or I like speaking Spanish with you, we might say. How about a negative? I don't like. So I don't like would be no me gusta. How would you say I don't like to argue with you? What would that be? No me gusta discutir contigo. No me gusta discutir contigo. Okay, here's a good question. Do you like? So obviously you're going to say you like, whatever it might be. So do you like? So using te gusta. Do you like to be? And we're not going to say to be at home. We're just going to say, do you like to be with Carmen? Do you like to be with Carmen? Now, probably in English, more natural sounding would be, do you like being with Carmen? But kind of literally translated is, do you like to be with Carmen? What would that be? ¿Te gusta estar con Carmen? ¿Te gusta estar con Carmen? How about, I don't like being with Miguel? What would that be? No me gusta estar con Miguel. No me gusta estar con Miguel. Okay, let's mix them up a little bit. How would you say, do you want to go to the shop first? What would that be? ¿Quieres ir a la tienda primero? ¿Quieres ir a la tienda primero? How about, I can't play golf in the end. No puedo jugar al golf al final. No puedo jugar al golf al final. And we could put the al final at the beginning. Al final no puedo jugar al golf. In the end, I can't play golf. How would you say, I usually argue with Carmen? Suelo discutir con Carmen. And maybe we could add much again. Suelo discutir mucho con Carmen. I usually argue a lot with Carmen. Okay, we're going to replace the first column now with language that we can use to talk about the future. And because we're talking about the future, we'll just change today in the third column, so hoy, we'll change that for mañana, tomorrow. Okay, so focusing now on the first column, we've got straight into the future with I'm going to and you're going to, or the question, are you going to? So I'm going to, voy a, and you're going to, vas a. And notice how the V there is pronounced more like a B in English. So voy a and vas a. I'm going to and you're going to. What do you think it means if I say voy a terminar el curso mañana? Voy a terminar el curso mañana. I'm going to finish the course tomorrow. And what do you think this question with are you going to means? ¿Vas a ir a la tienda primero? ¿Vas a ir a la tienda primero? Are you going to go to the shop first? How would you say, I'm going to eat something first? What would that be? Voy a comer algo primero. Voy a comer algo primero. And how about the question, are you going to? And instead of saying speak Spanish, we're just going to say speak. So are you going to speak with Carmen? What would that be? So are you going to speak with Carmen? ¿Vas a hablar con Carmen? ¿Vas a hablar con Carmen? And of course we could have I'm not going to. No voy a. How would you say I'm not going to sleep? We'll leave the end bit. Just I'm not going to sleep. What would that be? No voy a dormir. No voy a dormir. Actually, more useful might be I'm not going to argue. What would that be? No voy a discutir. No voy a discutir. And then let's look at the other two. So we've got I would like or you would like. So me gustaría and te gustaría. So I would like is me gustaría and you would like, or the question, would you like, te gustaría. And then under that we've got I hope, espero, and you hope or do you hope, esperas. How would you say, let's go back to I would like. How would you say, I'd like to play tennis? So we'll change it from to play golf to play tennis. I'd like to play tennis with you. What would that be? Me gustaría jugar al tenis contigo. Me gustaría jugar al tenis contigo. How about the question, would you like? ¿Te gustaría? How would you ask, would you like to speak Spanish? ¿Te gustaría hablar español? ¿Te gustaría hablar español? And let's try one with I hope. How would you say, I hope to finish the course tomorrow? What would that be? Espero terminar el curso mañana. Espero terminar el curso mañana. And now let's replace the first column with words that refer to the past. And so we'll also need to change tomorrow to yesterday. So ayer, yesterday. Okay, so first column, acabo de, I've just. So I've just done whatever it might be. We just say acabo de, and then our verb. And you have just is acabas de. So acabo de and acabas de. So we could say acabo de comer algo. I've just eaten something. Now, it looks like we're saying I've just to eat something. Of course, in English we would say I've just eaten something. Acabo de comer algo. How would you say I've just played golf with Carmen? Acabo de jugar al golf con Carmen. Acabo de jugar al golf con Carmen. How about you've just spoken Spanish? What would that be? Acabas de hablar español. Acabas de hablar español. How about I've just spoken with Carmen? What would that be? Well, let's change it to Miguel. I've just spoken with Miguel. What would that be? Acabo de hablar con Miguel. Acabo de hablar con Miguel. Okay, let's have a look at the other two phrases for getting us into the past. So, iba a is I was going to, or ibas with the S on there, ibas a, you were going to, or the question, were you going to? Iba a and ibas a. And then underneath that, we've got I tried and you tried. So intenté and intentaste. So going back to I was going to, what would it mean if I said iba a terminar el curso primero? Iba a terminar el curso primero. I was going to finish the course first. How would you ask the question? Were you going to play golf with Carmen? ¿Ibas a jugar al golf con Carmen? ¿Ibas a jugar al golf con Carmen? What about, I was going to sleep first? What would that be? Iba a dormir primero. Iba a dormir primero. And using I tried, how would you say I tried to speak Spanish yesterday? Intenté hablar español ayer. Intenté hablar español ayer. How about one with you tried or did you try? How would you ask, did you try to eat something in the end? ¿Intentaste comer algo al final? ¿Intentaste comer algo al final? So, as I mentioned earlier, we haven't had time to do this in a step-by-step way where you learn everything as you go, but you will certainly have seen now just how quickly it's possible to learn Spanish. And before we go on to the part of the video for our non-beginners, another reminder that my ProSpanish Levels 1 to 6 course is only available for download from prospanish.co.uk. Okay, so on to the non-beginners section of this video, and welcome back to any of you who skipped forward. I'm going to show you now how you can get straight into using advanced Spanish, even if you haven't been doing Spanish for very long at all. We'll leave the last two columns as they are, and we'll add an extra column, so we've got 4 columns now. And I'm going to show you an easy way to get into the subjunctive. And if you've never come across the subjunctive before, that's not a problem at all. It's just a verb form that we need to use after certain triggers. And you can just learn those groups of triggers one at a time and just tick them off until you know them all. And I'm using an acronym here as a useful way to group these triggers. So it's weirdo is the acronym. W stands for wishes. So things that you want and things that you wish. So I want that, whatever it might be. I hope that, which is our example here. So espero que, I hope that. So whenever you have I hope that, a subjunctive will always follow. We'll look at that form in a moment. Next in the weirdo is the letter E, which stands for emotions. So when the first part of your sentence is something like I'm glad that, or I'm delighted that, or I'm happy that, or I'm angry that, it will always be followed by a subjunctive. So if you want to say I'm glad that, whatever it might be, you say me alegro de que, and then whatever it is that you're glad about. And we'll obviously practice these in a moment. Next is the I in weirdo, which refers to impersonal phrases. So the one we're using here is it's important that, but it could be it's impossible that, or it's fantastic that, it's great that, it's terrible that. Those are impersonal phrases, and they will always be followed by the subjunctive. The only ones that don't are impersonal phrases that give absolute certainty. So a phrase, an impersonal phrase like it's true that, or it's certain that, those won't be followed by the subjunctive. But the vast majority of impersonal phrases don't convey that certainty, and so they would be followed by the subjunctive. The R in weirdo stands for recommending or recommendation. So I've used I suggest that, but it could be I recommend or any other such phrase. So I suggest that, sugiero que, will always be followed by the subjunctive. The D is for doubt or denial. So here we've got I don't believe that, or I don't think that, no creo que, but it could also be dudo que, I doubt that. It could be I'm not sure that, no estoy seguro de que, whatever it might be. And then finally the O is ojalá. So ojalá is a word that's been imported into Spanish from Arabic, and here we're using it as hopefully, but depending on the context, it can also mean if only or I wish. And the reason why it's easy to get into the subjunctive this way is instead of changing all our verbs and learning all our verbs in the subjunctive, we can just learn a few which can then be followed by those infinitive phrases we were using previously. So, you're going to, in the subjunctive, is vayas a, and you can just learn these as set phrases. So, vayas a, so instead of vas a, which is you're going to, in the subjunctive, it's vayas a. You can is puedas, instead of puedes, puedas. You want also ends in as, quieras. So instead of quieres, which is the normal you want, the subjunctive you want is quieras. And you try is intentes. So the normal, the indicative you try would be intentas, but the subjunctive is intentes. So let's do a few where I'm going to say the sentence and you try and work out what I'm saying. Espero que vayas a hablar español mañana. Espero que vayas a hablar español mañana. What does that mean? I hope that you're going to speak Spanish tomorrow. So there might be some event and you're saying, or somebody saying to you, I hope that you're going to speak Spanish tomorrow. What does it mean if I say, es importante que intentes comer algo? Es importante que intentes comer algo. It's important that you try to eat something. How about, no creo que quieras dormir. And actually, let's leave the final column off there. So, no creo que quieras dormir. What does that mean? I don't believe or I don't think that you want to sleep. Okay, you try now. How would you say, I suggest that you try to finish the course first? What would that be? Sugiero que intentes terminar el curso primero. Sugiero que intentes terminar el curso primero. Hopefully you can sleep tomorrow. Ojalá puedas dormir mañana. Ojalá puedas dormir mañana. How about, I'm glad you can play golf with me. Me alegro de que puedas jugar al golf conmigo. Me alegro de que puedas jugar al golf conmigo. How about, I don't think you want to speak Spanish. No creo que quieras hablar español. No creo que quieras hablar español. How would you say, I'm glad that you're going to be at home tomorrow. Me alegro de que vayas a estar en casa mañana. Me alegro de que vayas a estar en casa mañana. How about, I hope that you can finish the course in the end. Espero que puedas terminar el curso al final. Espero que puedas terminar el curso al final. And that brings us to the end of this video. As mentioned earlier, If you're looking to become a confident speaker of Spanish in 2026, then head over to prospanish.co.uk where you can download the full Levels 1 to 6 course.